What is going on, guys? Legit here. Welcome back to some more World of Tanks on console, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at the brand new Centennial Chieftain T95 Tier 8 British medium tank. Now this video is not going to cover just about everything with the tank, but hopefully it will give you guys a good idea of what you'll be dealing with if you do decide to get this tank. So let's go ahead and get started. First we'll take a look at the gun. This thing is packing a 90mm rifled cannon with a rate of fire of 7.23 rounds a minute, which gives this thing a reload of 7.96. Now, I do run some equipment with this thing. I run coated optics, gun rammer, and vertical stabilizer, all towards helping the gun handling, except with the coated optics. But I'll be putting up on the screen what that will do for the tank. So for the reload, the rammer will drop the reload time down to 7.1 seconds, increasing the DPM from a pretty horrible 1,809 up to 2,008, which still is not fantastic, so you really don't want to be getting into any DPM battles with any other tank, but something to keep in mind. Aiming time of 2.2 seconds and 0.36 accuracy. Now, the game doesn't really give you the dispersion number, so I'm going to go ahead and show you that. Now, dispersion is as you're moving the gun, whether it be the turret or the tank, the lower the dispersion, the more likely you are to hit what you're aiming or hit your target. Now, that's not the Encyclopedia Britannica's definition of it, but as a rule of thumb, just try to get the number as low as possible. The closer to 0 it is, the better. While moving stock, this thing has 0.18 dispersion on moving the tank, 0.18 dispersion on traverse, 0.14 on turret traverse, and 3.5 after firing. Now these are the PC stats, so take it with a grain of salt, but it should hopefully give you an idea of what you'll be dealing with. Now with the the vertical stabilizer, that will drop the dispersion while moving the tank down to 0.14, the traverse down to 0.14, the turret traverse down to 0.11, and 2.8 after firing. So, you know, it's not the most fantastic dispersion, but it's not bad either, so it's kind of average in that respect. Gun depression, it's got 10 degrees, basically cream of the crop as gun depression goes. Pretty good stuff there. Now the shell velocity, I think, is something rather interesting about this tank. Its standard rounds get 1,143 meters per second on the shell velocity. That, I believe, is actually pretty fantastic for something at tier 8. I could be wrong, but I think it's pretty good. And also the premium rounds, which is APCR on this thing, also get a pretty good shell velocity at 1,570 meters per second. Now, as far as mobility goes, this is no AMX CDC, so please keep that in mind if you do decide to pick this tank up. This is a 50-ton tank that's being pushed by a 750 horsepower engine, so top speed is 42, and it will get there eventually on soft ground. It's not terribly slow, but over most surfaces it probably hovers around the 37, probably 38 kilometers an hour, mostly. But it will do 42. It doesn't lie to you like the IS-7. Anyway, the terrain resistances are, average on this tank as well. 0.77 on hard, 0.96 on medium, and 1.73 on soft. Not the greatest, but not the worst. And also with the engine, there is a 10% chance of fire. So that's actually pretty fantastic. Some may choose to get preventative maintenance on their crew and then run a food consumable or something like that. Perfectly viable option with this thing. View range, pretty okay, 380. With the coated optics that I do run on here, it bumps it up to 418 rather. Brothers in Arms, Situational, and Recon will also bump this up, so all good crew skills to go for if you're grinding a crew. Now to move on to the next bit, we're going to talk about this thing's armor. We're not even going to bother with the hull because it is absolutely atrocious. But fun fact, that the sandbags and everything on this tank actually count as spaced armor, albeit it's pretty terrible spaced armor, but it is spaced armor, so it's something to keep in mind. Now, the name to fame with this tank is the turret. It is it's a pretty good turret, honestly. Realistically, it's a really good turret. Since it is part American, it does have that massive tumor on top, something to try to hide and keep in mind. It's also a very big weak spot, it's only 50 millimeters. I'll put some pictures up on the screen of the effective armor thickness of this turret from the front. And you'll see, most things at tier 8 may have a hard time dealing with that, really. And there's also a weak spot just below the commander's hatch by the viewport. I'll point that out too, right about here. Something else to keep in mind if you're trying to go hold down with this thing. Now this tank since it does have a very weak hull, it is prone to ammunition damage. As you're seeing, it has 2 cases of ammo racks that are sitting right in the front of the vehicle next to that 80 millimeters of armor. So it's up to you, but I would recommend either safe stowage, or if you're really paranoid about it, you could run wet ammo racks as well. But this thing is prone to ammo rack damage quite a bit. So you have the 2 ammo racks here on the front, and there is one also on the back left-hand side of the turret as well. Something to keep in mind. Now the engine did say that it had a 10% chance of fire, but as you're seeing here, the 2 gas tanks that are on the sides are rather large targets. They take up almost half of the top of the size of the tank. So yes, it is 10% chance of fire, but the gas tanks, I think, are rather big targets. So it's up to you whether you decide to carry a fire extinguisher. For the time being, I'm going to continue to, but that may change in the future. Another thing I wanted to point out about this tank is because it is a premium, it does get certain premium bonuses, and while the XP is on the lower side with only a 15% increase, it does have a 55% silver increase, so it does make quite a bit of silver, you know, which is nice. Okay, so before we continue any further with the gameplay, there's one thing I wanted to bring out about the gun. Its penetration is good and also kind of awkward. What I mean is, its 202 is better than the 175 that some other tier 8s get, most other tier 8s get, but it's not as good as, say, the CDC's 218. So it is a small amount of difference, but it does have a big impact on what you can and cannot penetrate, and I think getting used to that is something that will have to come with playing the tank. Okay, so the strategy you want to use while playing this tank is basically ridgeline working. This thing has 10 degrees of gun depression, which is pretty fantastic, and also a good turret. So poking over this ridgeline, poke and shoot is the type of gameplay style that you want to use if you would like to be successful in this tank. And I'm going to let the video go ahead and take care of this point.
The enemy knows our location. I see one. Loaded and ready. Nice shot. That one did some damage. Good clean hit.
So with that, you basically want to poke out when you have a shot ready, fire, and then back up before you give the enemy a chance to aim at your weak spots to do damage to you. So this point right here is kind of showing off the shell velocity of the standard rounds in this thing. Once you fire, there is a very short time between when you fire and when the shell gets there, I think, which is fantastic for a standard round. You can only imagine how much more quicker the APCR rounds are. I don't think I fired any in this match, but you get the idea. This tank plays more of the pure support role, I feel, just because it does have that really bad hull armor. It can't be up front taking the hits. But on the other hand, just because it does have that 10 degrees of gun depression, it can work those ridge lines and support the tanks that are up front taking the hits. So I really think that's probably going to be the best way to play this thing, is rather conservatively and, like I said, working those ridge lines. So that's going to wrap this video up, guys. If you do have any questions on the Chieftain T95, leave them down in the comment section down below. I will take a look at those, and also tell me what you guys think of the Chieftain T95. Do you like it? Are you going to get it? That kind of thing. As always, if you did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like and also subscribing if you haven't already done so. Don't forget to follow me on social media. That is in the description box as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.